The Gold Cup knockout matchups are set. There are some Americans on the move in Europe, and we learn about a brand new club coming to Dallas, Texas. That and more here on Wednesdays, Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. The sound of France Peck and Power means one thing: you found your way to Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's favoriteest country. Even though I don't know the name of the day, we come to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Robert Kerr, American soccer commentator. He's Jason Davis, radio all-star. Thank you for joining us here on Wednesday. How you feeling, Mr. Davis?
I'm good. It's very, very hot. So being inside is nice. Talking to you about soccer is nice. And we've got a very, I think, eclectic show. That's what we are establishing here on Morning Kickaround, Rob, that we are all about being eclectic. It is an American soccer show. That doesn't mean we just talk about the national teams. It doesn't mean we just talk about Major League Soccer. It means we talk about everything. Got a little taste of everything today.
We sure do, dipping into some soccer disruptors, brand new teams, and some player rumors. So yes, a smorgasbord of American-related soccer chat. Before we get rolling into our segments, if you haven't hit subscribe yet and you're watching this, do so now. Our numbers are climbing. We're doing great, and you can be the next to join. If you want to support just a little bit more than hitting the subscribe button, become a member, become an MK Ultra. For $3.99 a month, you become a priority commenter. You get early access to videos. We make you bonus content, and you get access to the Discord server where there's great American-centric conversation threads in there. Local, MLS, USL, and more. Great place to join the American soccer conversation. You can follow along on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, Twitter, Gmail, morningkickaround@gmail.com. If you want to write us a note, thank you to everyone who's done that already. You want to support us outside of the YouTube bubble, you can support us at coffee.com/morningkickaround. You can name your own donation amount there. Thank you to everyone who's done that. And one last note, if you like podcasts, Morning Kickaround's a podcast too. Search Morning Kickaround on your favorite podcast platform. Jason, you ready for some segments?
Let's go. Let's dive in. Let's get to the news.
All right, let's kick some long balls here on Morning Kickaround. Following last night's action, the Gold Cup group stage is over. This is Morning Kickaround's long ball number one here today. Gold Cup quarterfinal matchups are set for the weekend, and there's some interesting ones along the way. Obviously, headlined USA versus Costa Rica on Sunday, but also in the mix, Canada versus Guatemala, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Panama, Honduras.
Yeah, this is, look, obviously I'm focused on the U.S. challenge against Costa Rica on Saturday, just to cross-pollinate. I'll be on SiriusXM FC with the pregame and a postgame show for that game. The Gold Cup is usually fairly predictable. I do think because of the U.S. struggle in the Nations League, there's at least a sense that it might not go the Americans' way. I mean, Costa Rica is not going to be pushovers, right? They looked really good against Mexico despite not scoring and beating L3. Canada gets a pretty soft draw or a soft matchup here with Guatemala. You've got Mexico getting Saudi Arabia, who I think is going to make it tough on Mexico to score goals, but I do expect Mexico, maybe 1-0, 89th minute penalty. What do you think? That sound about right for Mexico? That's always usually how it goes down.
I was going to say, that sounds like a familiar storyline. You got the beats of the narrative there,
yeah.
Jason.
I expect Panama to handle Honduras. Honduras is not very good. So, what we're hoping for, I think, is the same Final Four we had in the Nations League, right? The same Final Four.
I mean, that's one of the things about CONCACAF, right? There's only so many teams that are competitive to win these sort of championships. Canada's in the mix. They are a past winner, but it's been over 2 decades since they've won it. Because I was going to ask, do you think it's possible that there's a new winner for Gold Cup 2025?
No, well, okay. My gut is that look, and I'll bring this in from Nate. He's an MK Ultra. My brain side, as opposed to your butt side, my brain side is telling me Costa Rica is the end of the line for this U.S. team. That's very possible. It's very possible. It's not how this usually goes historically. I don't think I'm quite there with my brain side with Nate, but it's not like I don't see it as possible. So I think the United States probably squeaks by Costa Rica. Canada takes care of Guatemala. Mexico squeaks by Saudi Arabia, and Panama handles Honduras. And then we get back to the same Final Four for the Nations League. Canada can absolutely beat the United States. Now, they wouldn't be a first-time winner, as you said. They did win this competition, I think, in 2000.
Yep.
So they wouldn't be a first-time winner, but they can absolutely beat the United States to make a final. And then I would have Mexico being pretty heavy favorites against whoever they face in the semis. And again, I think it's likely that's Panama. So now then we get into a final. Even if the United States beats Canada, then we're back to the usual, which is USA Mexico in the final. But probably not going to get a first-time winner, Rob. Probably not.
I think it's pretty telling that there's only been 3 teams or 3 nations that have ever won this competition, and Canada only the once. So it's really a duopoly. And I really thought that for whatever reason, Costa Rica has had some good iterations of their team that have been really good and competitive. I'm surprised that they didn't get one somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
But they haven't. Through the group stages, though, was there any team that looks any stronger than the rest? Obviously, maybe like Mexico's an easy answer, but
but we're talking about very small edges. Look, Mexico, man for man, and sort of the relative strength that they could bring to this competition, has the strongest team. But what I mean is, Mexico has more of their first choice players than anybody else, and at a higher level than everybody. Canada has a lot of first choice guys, but Alphonso Davies is hurt. They're missing several players who might be starters, but they still have, David and Buchanan. Eustaquio's away, or I guess now he's not, but was away at the Club World Cup. I think he's rostered, so Eustaquio could arrive at some point, because Porto is now knocked out of the Club World Cup. So that probably means Eustaquio could join them at this point. Anyway, what I'm saying is that Canada is probably second on that list in terms of the relative strength, but they struggled a little bit. Again, that Curacao draw suggests there's something that can be done against Canada to slow them down. I'm not going to say anything about the United States, because that kind of brings the possibility of a jinx or something, and they haven't looked great at times, right? They snuck by Saudi Arabia, they snuck by Haiti on some level. So I can't put a lot of eggs in my U.S. basket at this point. And Panama probably deserves more respect. I just don't see them getting it done.
Yeah, Panama, how many wins in a row against the United States do they have? I guess 2?
I think it's 3, maybe. I think is it 3? Chat would know how many times the U.S. has lost to Panama recently. Yeah, they do seem to have our number, but luckily we wouldn't see Panama until a final if the United States managed to get past Costa Rica and Canada.
This is a little bit of a side note here. I do remember in Gold Cups past where the United States have brought in like a few new players following the group stage. Is that still a thing that is possible?
No, I don't believe that's. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That is not the case here. I mentioned Stefan Eustaquio maybe joining Canada because they put him on their roster. They put him on the team that they want. They put him on his name on the list. The United States did nothing of the kind. Pochettino wasn't messing around with that. There's no McKennie arriving late. There's no Weah arriving late. That kind of stuff. So it is still it's going to be this team. Yeah, wouldn't it be great if there was like a run-in pro wrestling style Christian Pulisic? What would be his music style? Because Mike Thomas, who is an ultra, be like Mike Thomas.
I'm proud to be an American.
Okay. Oh, God. Yeah, you sure you don't want to go with Hulk Hogan's song, which is also very patriotic? No, his old school song, the Hulk Hogan. All right. Anyway,
all right. You'll have to sing out loud the Hulk Hogan song to remind me and all the viewers what that is.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I can't pull it, but it's in there somewhere. It's in the memory bank somewhere. But yeah, Mike says Mike says the Shabuzi Tipsy song.
Yep, that's his brand new
Oh
favorite
man,
song.
I don't think we have a line on what kind of music Christian Pulisic listens to. Like, I don't think we have
I have
any
a feeling
sense.
he's a guy that says, I listen to everything, and it's just literally whatever's on the radio. He doesn't pick it himself at all.
Maybe you're saying he has no personal taste. He just goes with he just gets pushed along.
Or there might be something that someone else picked in the locker room where he's like, oh, that was kind of good, but he has no idea what it is.
I could see him being into trap somehow for some reason. I
think everyone under 25.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just so ubiquitous at this point. Anything trap. I cannot see him listening to like Bad Bunny. I don't think I could see that. I don't know how much Spanish.
He doesn't have that kind of sauce. He's not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not gonna. Yeah. All right, let's move on since we can't.
The Shabuzi-less and Pulisic-less U.S. men's national team take on Costa Rica Sunday at 7.
Saturday. That game is Saturday. Is it not?
That's not according to
Sunday. It is Sunday. I'm sorry. My apologies. I had it in my head that was a Saturday game. You're right. It is a Sunday matchup for the United States. I think that there was some things to be determined going into the final group stage match. So Mexico will play Saturday against Saudi Arabia, and Panama will play Saturday against Honduras. Thank you, Rob, for correcting me.
And and we'll have to hold on and hold on to the edge of our seats for Gold Cup to return at the weekend. 3 days without Gold Cup. What will we do, Jason? Long ball number 2, moving over to the other international competition happening in the United States. Inter Miami, the only Major League Soccer side progressing to the Club World Cup knockouts. A slow motion Luis Suarez kind of saved the day for Miami against Palmeiras on Monday night. And that sets up a PSG versus Inter Miami, a messy derby. I think it's being billed Sunday at noon.
Is that what we're doing? I guess. If we're gonna go with pro wrestling themes, I guess this is like the revenge match on some match. Yeah, Lionel Messi did not enjoy his time in Paris, and he intends to take it out on PSG. No, I mean, I think what I'm afraid of is that this is going to be very ugly. Not like a little ugly, not like 3-0, but I'm talking 5 or 6. And there's a chance that Miami gets a goal or two. I think there's a possibility of that. But you could argue that PSG looked their best when they turned it on against the best competition that they faced in this tournament, Atletico Madrid, in that first game. And they won 4-0, going away over another Champions League caliber team. And here they are up against an MLS team that is notable for 2 things. One is Lionel Messi, and the other one is not playing defense, not defending very well, Rob. So you're talking about the champions who put a number on Inter Milan in a Champions League final. What are they capable of in a Club World Cup match against Inter Miami?
I think Inter Miami's best defender might be the midday heat.
That might be true.
If they're at full flow, if PSG are at full flow, to your point, have dismantled some of Europe's best, if they are in full energy, full pressing mode, it could be ugly for Inter Miami against the European champions, arguably the best club side in the world. Just kind of a note for the Fallen, who kind of covered themselves in a little bit better glory, Seattle or LAFC there?
I think Seattle should feel better about their tournament than LAFC. You know, I know LAFC finished out with a draw, but they were already dead in the water. Like, that was nothing against Flamengo. It didn't matter. That game didn't matter. They missed their chance by not being able to beat Esperance.
Yeah,
they had to beat Esperance, and they didn't. And whereas you look at Seattle and you consider the teams that they played, and look, if Botafogo had done nothing in the tournament, and Seattle had lost to Botafogo, you would say, oh well, you know, that's pretty disappointing. They could have beaten Botafogo and maybe given themselves a chance, or at least had something to take out of the tournament in terms of points. But Botafogo advanced. Botafogo moves on to the knockout phase at the expense of Atletico Madrid. So again, you're looking at PSG, the European champions, going away. Atletico Madrid, who made the quarterfinals of that tournament this year, and obviously a challenger for a La Liga title almost every season. And Botafogo, who is a reigning Brazilian champion. I know they were stripped for parts on some level, but a reigning Brazilian champion who beat PSG 1-0, beat the reigning European champion. So for Seattle to be 0 points looks terrible, but then you consider the context. They lose 2-1 to Botafogo. They lose 3-1 to Atletico Madrid. They lose 2-0 to Paris Saint-Germain. It could have been much worse. Like, it could have been like if it was their goal difference was like -10, then we'd be saying, oh, that's what a disaster. They look terrible. But I think they acquitted themselves relatively well.
Yeah, I think I saw a local reporter in Seattle kind of frame it as Seattle Sounders weren't outperformed, they were just outclassed. And so they were like in all of the games, but they just didn't have that notch of quality to take it up a notch to really challenge, but not embarrassed in any way. And you got to feel for Bouanga, arguably one of the best players in Major League Soccer, missing a very important penalty kick for their campaign in this competition. But lest we forget, Major League Soccer is back in action today. Can you believe it? There is a full slate of Major League Soccer games midweek, which completely took me by surprise, to be in all honesty. And probably headlining that is Columbus Atlanta United. Could Ronnie Dyla be quietly dispensed during all this fervor of these international competitions?
What a moment. Look, if they don't, then Columbus is obviously a good team, although not playing at the same level this year that they have in the past. Atlanta down there in 13th position. They put together a couple of wins against two teams that are way up the table in Cincinnati and Orlando, and then subsequently went on to lose to the Red Bulls and to NYCFC by a pretty bad number, 4-0. So I definitely think Ronnie Dyla is hanging on by his fingernails. And wouldn't it be just the perfect time, should they lose this match in Columbus tonight, to dismiss Ronnie Dyla, what everybody is distracted by the shiny things that are the Club World Cup and the Gold Cup and all that. Yeah, I'm not wishing for that, and I'm sad that Ronnie Dyla is struggling, because I thought he was a good hire. I was on the record saying this is a smart hire for NYCFC. For Atlanta, a guy who won a championship at NYCFC, a guy who knows the league really well. But man, it's not working.
Is it on him? I mean, I don't want to dig too deep, but is it on him, or is they just have a mishmash of players, or is it like been long enough to get the mishmash of players working in a comprehensive way?
I mean, look, you consider the money that they spent, the guys that they brought in, especially on the attacking end of the field, and you got 21 goals in 18 games, right? That has to be somewhat on the manager. It has to be on the manager on some level. You can maybe talk about not a great a great lining up of players, but there's enough here. Right? They haven't got enough out of Miranchuk. I like Lobjanitsa. He's a good player, but maybe getting lost in this. Again, they went out and they spent money on. They spent a record amount of money, right? And you bring back. You bring back Miguel Madron, who's supposed to be the emotional leader of this renaissance and it's just,
Did Atlanta buy a Ferrari with a broken engine?
They might have bought a Ferrari with a broken engine. They might have. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You could say maybe they have a Ferrari that has a busted, something's not working right, but the driver is maybe part of, although Rob, we do this. Where do we go when a team is struggling, when a team isn't playing up to what we expect them to do? We don't go, well, that player and that. I mean, sometimes that's the case, but you also can't boot those players, generally speaking. They can take them out of the lineup, but they got to take up a roster spot. And now you're going, well, our hands are tied. So what change can you make that has the potential to change your fortunes? It's always down to the head coach. It's always down to the guy who picks the roster, picks the lineup, sets the tactics.
So no shortage of games, no Gold Cup, but there's a full slate of Major League Soccer on tonight and a full slate of Club World Cup action. Notable this afternoon, Dortmund versus Ulsan HD. Will we see Gio Reyna? We shall see. We talked about that earlier in the week, but
why would I think we would? Niko Kovac doesn't like him. or every manager he has doesn't like him, I guess. I mean, we did a video on Gio. We did a segment on Gio. I think what was that, Monday, right? And the comments are there are people in the comments trying to defend Gio. Hey, look at his numbers. His numbers are as good as Malik Tillman's if you gave him the kind of minutes that Malik Tillman is getting at PSV Eindhoven. Brother, he's not getting those minutes. Like, you can wish it, but it's not happening right now.
Yeah. Speaking of Americans abroad, long ball number 3, Americans on the move. At least 3 American players are rumored to be shuffling around. We'll lead off with the United States men's national team new, rising starlet forward Patrick Agyemang, rumored this week to be moving over to the English Championship. Derby County interested in Patrick Agyemang. I put this. It's another kind of one of those moments. You think of him as this young, undeveloped player, but he's 24. I thought, is this too soon? Like too big a platform too early? But with his age, probably not, right?
No, I mean, if he's going to move, it needs to be now. I think we talked about that. If there is a place that feels like the right step for Patrick Agyemang, it might be the championship. The physicality of that league kind of matches up with his profile. You say that Derby County is interested. Derby County finished 19th in the championship this past season, but Ipswich is also rumored to be interested in Patrick Agyemang, which is a different kettle of fish because they are obviously a relegated team that you would imagine would be in the fight for promotion in this next year in England. So the expectations would be higher at Ipswich than they are at Derby County, but maybe he helps lift Derby County. Which one would you prefer for a player who is still learning his craft? Rob?
I feel like Ipswich are less likely to be involved in a relegation scrap, but you can't say that too soon because Luton, in a similar position to Ipswich last year, they went double down, 2 straight relegations for Luton. But I think Ipswich is probably more exciting. I can't say that haven't really enjoyed watching a Derby County in a decade plus. They are, when I saw that name attached to Agyemang, I didn't necessarily get excited and think that is an aspirational move. Like, obviously he wants to move to the championship. I mean, but at the same time, I didn't like the Daryl DK to Barnsley move. That didn't seem like a shiny move, and he made the most out of that. So hard to say, but like at the surface, Ipswich probably has a bit more going for them. They have a little bit more positivity than Derby County right now, and probably are a little bit more aggressive and more realistically going to be in the playoff push. So I would go Ipswich there.
Nate, this seems harsh. Pat should be playing in the USL. I mean, I'm not sure why you're being so mean to him and not a fan, apparently. Okay, Nate's not a fan of Patrick Agyemang. Look, I don't think you have to be a fan of Agyemang to think that this is a good thing potentially for the U.S. men's national team. Now, then that's the prism through which we view this. I mean, I guess if you can step outside of your fandom for the U.S. men's national team, then you would say, well, Patrick Agyemang as a player, is this the right thing for him, right? Is this the thing that will help him be happy in life, I guess? Like, if you're just trying to connect with that part of it. And obviously, if you're a Charlotte fan, you're worried about this. I did see that the way the MLS roster rules work, Agyemang doesn't hit their salary budget. So this isn't like we sell him, we get a bunch of money in, and we get some cap relief and allows us to do other things. They're not suffering for having Agyemang on their roster right now. But I don't know that it's a good idea to stand in the way of players who do have an opportunity to make the move. Now, we don't know if Agyemang wants this. We don't know if he thinks he's ready for this. Certainly we don't want to see another Dale DK where you go and you get hurt and you never play, and then it's just this cycle of depression around that player.
It was good before the injuries for DK.
It was, and I still think DK has a chance. He's actually, I think Daryl DK. Let me ask you this: do you think Daryl DK is older or younger than Patrick Agyemang?
I bet they're like the exact same age. I have a feeling the way you're phrasing that makes me think that they're the same age.
Daryl DK just turned 25 on June 3rd.
Ooh, so just very narrowly older than Patrick Agyemang.
But he's obviously so much more experienced than Agyemang because he was younger when he busted into Major League Soccer. He was younger when he was sold. Agyemang will turn 25 in November. So we're talking about 5 months. basically, of difference, but totally different in terms of the curve of their careers at this point.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Another player rumored to be on the move. One of the new upcoming starlets of this Gold Cup United States men's national team, and PSV Eindhoven, Malik Tillman, rumored to be going to Bayern Leverkusen, a Leverkusen team who has been stripped for parts and are probably eager to bolster their squad.
Yeah, this one's interesting because if it was like, oh, Xabi Alonso wants Malik Tillman, oh my gosh, we'd be excited about this. I mean, they just sold Florian Wirtz to Liverpool. Maybe there's a place for Malik Tillman to grow and find his way in the Bundesliga, which of course is where he started his career coming out of the Bayern Munich academy. But man, this is a totally different Bayer Leverkusen equation now. With Xabi gone, with Wirtz gone, it doesn't feel like it's going to be the same sort of world at Leverkusen. But at the same time, it's still the Bundesliga. It's still a step up. It still could be the opportunity for Malik Tillman to evolve Pokemon style into the next form, right, Robbie? Like if we want Malik Tillman to be what Gio Reyna could not be or is not when we get to the World Cup next year, him playing in the Bundesliga is a better proposition than him playing in the Eredivisie.
Oh, no doubt about that. No doubt about that at all. And so does he come from Malik to Malik when he does his evolve to like stage 1 Tillman?
Yeah, that might be what it is. We were talking about the pronunciation of his name. I think there's a story from last year in the Washington Post where he says, like, you know, in Germany they say Malik, but here they say Malik. And I've been going back and forth. If you noticed, I can't stay constant now. I can't stay consistent because I keep hearing people on TV say Malik, and I'm like, I don't think that. I thought it was Malik. But it doesn't matter. Either way, he's the same guy, or he's the same corporal form. And he look, again, this is a significant step up. A significant step up. And this is a team that will be in the Champions League again, right? So there's a potential for that as well. We should always want American players playing at the highest level possible. Like, I don't want to get into this negative cycle where we go, well, I don't know if he's ready. He had a really good year at PSV Eindhoven. I know there's some debate over whether he was the man and sort of had to carry the load or if he was a secondary player. No one's going to be asking him to be Florian Wirtz. That's not what's going to happen at Bayer Leverkusen. So I'm for this.
Yeah, fortune favors the bold, right? Another player trying to reach the heights of the game, Johnny Cardoso to Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, another situation with Champions League football. Another significant step up within the same league, right? So this is a little bit of a different thing because Johnny knows La Liga, having been at Betis. So now he gets an opportunity to go to a much, look, the expectations are much higher. And while I am still not convinced that Johnny Cardoso is a key guy for the U.S. men's national team, because I haven't seen him do it yet at that level or on the international stage, he's clearly talented. He had a very good season at Real Betis. Atletico Madrid doesn't want him. Well, maybe they think they can sell some jerseys to Americans. I don't know. People always bring that up. How much is Johnny Cardoso selling shirts? Although, actually, if it says Johnny on the back of an Atleti shirt, I might have to buy one.
That'd be pretty cool. That would
be
pretty cool.
People will think I'm Johnny. Like, no, that's Johnny Cardoso. Johnny football. But no, I'm choosing to look at it this way, Rob. If Diego Simeone, a guy who's known for his playing career as a tough-nosed midfielder, who has turned Atletico Madrid, now maybe they're playing a little differently than they did for a long time, but turned them into a defensive powerhouse, just makes it incredibly difficult to score goals against them. If he's identifying a defensive midfielder and bringing him in for anything, and I think it's 30 million, I think this is a 30 million euro fee that they're talking about, then I'm going to put my faith in Cholo. I'm going to put my faith in Diego Simeone and believe that he knows what he's doing when they go out and they sign Johnny Cardoso.
Yeah, for any Americans wanting more heart and steel in the team, I mean, having a player coach under Diego Simeone seems like a way to harden that steel, and that would be pretty exciting. That's probably outside of Pulisic. I mean, that's got to be some of the highest tiered, club rumorings out there, right? I mean, is anyone getting more aspirational as far as the club destination that they're getting pinned to?
No, I mean, you would put Atleti above Bayer Leverkusen in terms of Malik Tillman's potential move. I will also throw in that, and this is actually obviously a step down. The story is that Nottingham Forest is making a play for Tim Weah. I think there's actually a package deal. They want 2 players from Juve and they want to
They
pay
also
one
want
amount.
Jordan Henderson.
Well, I mean, they're still Nottingham Forest. Despite the season they had, they're still Nottingham Forest. And obviously that's a conference league qualifier. Nottingham Forest, right? They drifted down and now they're going to be in the conference league. It's still European football. And so that's a big thing for Nottingham Forest. But and I don't know, there's something about Tim Weah maybe playing in the Premier League. And really, I think what this is he going to play? Like for all these guys, again, one of the calculations is, will they play regular football? Malik Tillman going to Bayer Leverkusen. Okay. Potential for some significant minutes, but I don't think anything's guaranteed there. Johnny Cardoso going to Atletico Madrid. Possible chance that he's kind of a secondary option there, but he's young enough. Who knows? Maybe again, he's proven he can do it in the league. That's a club that knows what they're doing in player acquisitions. They'll figure out. Yeah. In fact, this is a very good point. Bernardo Castellanos, Simeone transferred Hector Herrera for Mexico. He can do the same for Johnny, right? Turning Hector Herrera into a better player for Mexico by virtue of playing under Diego Simeone. Maybe that's something that's coming for Johnny Cardoso. We can only dream that that's the situation for him. So that's and Tim Weah going to Nottingham Forest. Does he play more than he would at Juve? Again, if this is Igor Tudor is a guy who doesn't love Tim Weah, well, then get Tim Weah out of there so he can find a place to play.
Exciting times ahead. We'll see what happens with those players. If you're watching right now, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Join the American soccer conversation here on Morning Kickaround. Take your support a step farther by becoming an MK Ultra. $3.99 a month gets you a membership, gets you access to priority commenting, bonus content, the Discord chat, and more. Just $3.99 a month. Support this show. You can find us on the internet at Kickaround on X, Instagram, Blue Sky. Write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com, or find us as a podcast on your favorite audio platform. We've got some guests waiting in the wind, so we're going to sip our coffee and come right back to get to know our district of Dallas, Texas, here at Morning Kickaround. This is Get to Know Your District here on Morning Kickaround. We're going to take a peek at Dallas, Texas. Amongst the big things happening in Texas soccer is the formation creation of a brand new club set to play in the famous Cotton Bowl. From Atletico, Dallas, co-founder and chief commercial officer Sam Morton, founder and chairman of the club, Matt Valentine. Welcome into the show, gentlemen.
I think real quick, just a little pull back the curtain. I think we're trying to figure out how to get Sam and Matt on the screen at the same time because we've never done two guests. So apologies as we try to work out the technical issue. I think Jenny is on it at the moment, but let's start with Sam. So we definitely
in fairness, Sam. It could be Matt. He's not real tech savvy. So.
I can come sit in Sam's office if need be.
Okay. Well, Sam is here. You can see him. Matt is here. You can hear him. And I think that's the most important part, that we can hear both these guys.
You'd rather see me and hear Sam, but that's
okay. All right, here we go. Guys, first of all, thank you very much for coming by. We have kind of made it a theme on this show to get to know new clubs, clubs starting, clubs doing things that are interesting out there in the world of American soccer. And certainly you guys have something going on in Dallas. I think when Rob and I did, we were sort of learning as we went, but when we did a video a while back about USL expansion, we saw Garland, Texas, and we go, okay, well, there's going to be a team in Garland, Texas. And then we find out there's Atletico Dallas. We see obviously the logo behind Sam there, which is the snake and the wolf. And I'm intrigued. So Sam, kind of outline the story of getting to this point where you've got a club set to play in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, doing professional soccer in the city.
Yeah, I mean, I think our story, starts almost 40 years ago when Matt and I met in an ODP tryout in Arlington, Texas, where Matt and I grew up. So we were 11, 12 years old, and we're from different parts of the city, but certainly met there and have been friends ever since. So throughout high school, we played high school soccer together. We went our separate ways in college, but have always been close. 18 months ago, Matt gives me a call and says, "Hey, I'm gonna buy a USL club in Las Vegas," and I was like, "We don't what?" And at the time, I was at iHeart. I was running the iHeart sales office here in Dallas, and he's, "Yeah, we're gonna put something together and we're gonna do this." And that was about 18 months ago. Fast forward, Matt met everyone in the league. Obviously, Jose Batista bought Las Vegas Lights, but in that conversation, Matt met Papadakis, and here we are, 18 months later. We launched our brand May 2nd. We've made many announcements since then. One of which is a trading complex and corporate headquarters in Garland, Texas, that will have eight fields essentially. Our partnership with the city of Dallas, which includes us playing starting in 27 in the Cotton Bowl. It also gives us operational control of MoneyGram Park, which is a big 19-field complex here in the city. So we're off to the races. We're 19, 20 months away from kickoff, but trying our best to really be a part of the community and really started at the bottom and work our way up. And that's it. That's our story in a nutshell.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like you guys have given yourself a bit of a runway. Some teams kind of just jump straight in head first and then figure it out on the fly. You guys seem like you're being a bit more methodical. Hello, Matt. You're on screen. Welcome into the show.
Thanks.
So going slow and methodical. One of the questions I had, because this is get to know your district. So what about Dallas? Is there the hunger for more additional teams? I guess just go from there.
Yeah, so you have to understand, Dallas is a gigantic city in terms of population, but also in terms of scope and size. Where downtown is located, use that as the city center, where FC Dallas plays in Frisco's 36 miles from downtown, 36 miles north. Okay, Fort Worth is about 28 miles west. So candidly, you're closer to Fort Worth from downtown than Frisco. Garland is anywhere from 6 to 12 miles from downtown. It's a little east. So, with the southern edge of Garland or western edge, it's only 6 miles from downtown Dallas. It's in Dallas County. So it's not, by no means is it an outer suburb. I mean, it's literally very close to downtown. And so we believe that there's a huge appetite and market for soccer in the city center and closer to the city center. And that's what we wanted to bring. That's one of our mandates, bring professional soccer back to the city of Dallas, which candidly is 48+% Hispanic and has a huge, passionate, hardcore fan base that we believe we can capture.
Yeah, and to that point, people don't realize how big Dallas is, but it's 2.7 million people in Dallas County alone. There's nearly 8 million people in the metro area, but just in Dallas County, there's nearly 3 million people. So, we see that as a huge opportunity for the club.
In terms of positioning the team, I'm curious about that part of it. I mean, you acknowledge there's an MLS team in the market, as you outlined, Matt, not necessarily close to downtown Dallas, but in the market. We know that USL has been making some moves and some big announcements about a first division league and maybe Pro Rel. You talk about the Hispanic community. I'm curious about the imaging that you've chosen. So give me a sense of like what you thought of was necessary to position the team to be successful. I mean, do you call yourself, you call yourself Dallas, obviously, but do you call yourself top level soccer? Are you, what's that?
Yeah,
because there are different tracks there, right?
Great questions. I mean, yes, we intend to play at the highest level that we're able to within USL. And so we'll see where that shakes out. So yes, we want to be at the highest level possible. We're definitely trying to lean into it's not a demographic thing. We're trying to lean into a passionate soccer fan thing. And that's what we are. I mean, I'm trying to build this club in what I want. I want an environment. To me, just to back up, if we do the environment right in the stadium, which I get that we're going to have some challenges in the Cotton Bowl, But if we do the environment right in the stadium, everything else will work out. And if we can have a large supporter group that's passionate, that has tifos and flares as much as we're allowed with fire code, and just the kind of Latin American, European feelings in the stadium, which you get in some cities in the US. I mean, I've been to Austin and St. Louis and Seattle and LAFC, and there's some great environments in the US. And that's what we would like to offer. And I think that the hardcore, passionate soccer fan that wants a club that they can feel as part of the community, that's what we're trying to build. Everything else will work itself out. We believe if we are engaging the community, we're committed to the youth programs in the community, we're trying to make soccer accessible, which it's difficult. Soccer is an expensive sport. It used to not be that way, and it's not anywhere else in the world. But for youth here at the highest levels, it is. And there's a lot of kids in Dallas that get passed over. Either it's too far, they can't afford it. And, for us to be able to give that opportunity, we have a really large youth club with over 2,000 players that we've acquired in the last 6 months. So we think we can have a platform to create a club that people want to embrace.
What was that you said about, can you reiterate what you said about the affordability and what you're doing different about the youth soccer?
Yeah, it's a slow process. Sam and I talk about this a lot. We have a 20-year plan. It's not a 2-year plan. and eventually, I think that soccer at the highest level definitely shouldn't be pay for play. And, we want to create that. The intent is to use profits from our professional team to help fund our youth academy. And, you have to start at some age and work your way down. We're not billionaire owners. We don't just have cash to just throw around. So we're going to slowly grow that. I know that's our goal and our dream, to get the youth club. Now, if we have 160 plus teams on our youth club right now, we obviously can't make it free, and it's a business. But at the highest level, the kids that have a chance to make it to the professional team, those kids need to be playing for free. And so, that's really our intention. And then, being able to leverage a professional brand to help offset some costs is important to us.
Yeah, and beyond that, I think just more space for play. I mean, every city across the country has field shortages, and I think we've, as a country, just made it so complicated. Like, you've got to play in a league, and you've got to play on this beautiful field, and all these other things. And like, Matt and I used to play at Woodland West Park. We'd set up trash cans, and if you hit the trash can, that was a goal. And if it went in the trash can, the game was over, and you flip sides. Like, you just need a ball and some space, whether it's cement, whether it's a futsal court, whether it's a park. But we've made this illusion of, I've got to be on a team and I've got to do all this travel and all this other stuff. And let's just get kids playing soccer, and if we've got to make more spaces, and, I think you'll see you'll see some other announcements from us here over the next 30, 60 days that will chart a path for us to bring more playing surface to the county, and just get kids playing. I mean, that's really, that's what I love. I mean, we had 200 and some kids yesterday at the Cotton Bowl during our press conference with the city, and just to watch those kids set up goals and play on the field was awesome. It was great.
And the city of Dallas and Garland as well. Dallas obviously is much bigger and they have much more space. They're incredibly willing partner, and they understand the demographic shift that's happened here, and the ability to create more playing surface and more fields is a huge priority for them. And we're going to, try to take that lead and partner with them to do that.
I'm all for investment in youth soccer, and obviously flipping over the way it works now with pay to play and everything else. But, you talked about the connecting to the professional brand, and obviously you've got you want to put a top level team, a professional team on the field. And we do have some people in our chat who are maybe asking questions about that, because you're going to play in the Cotton Bowl. And Matt, you mentioned some of the difficulties, maybe some of the challenges rather, around creating the right kind of environment, the Cotton Bowl. What does the stadium future for Atletico Dallas look like? Because I think a lot of people would say, well, that's probably not your forever home. And if you want to be sort of at the top level of the game in the United States, you're going to have to be Louisville. You're going to have to be, we just talked to Detroit City. They're going to build a stadium. So where is Atletico Dallas in that mindset?
I mean, right now the Comp Bowl is our home. It's an iconic venue. It's obviously giant. It's 90,000 seats. There are some plans in the work and designs we've looked at to shrink the usable space and make it feel more intimate. It's not going to happen immediately, but there's a path where that could be our forever home, is with certain changes to the venue. It's in a really unique setting. It's 1 mile from downtown. I think it's 1.2 miles from downtown, and it's in the middle of a 275-acre park. They just did a $180 million renovation that's done in September, adding luxury suites and clubs. They've got another very large 9-figure development budget over the next 2 or 3 years. So there's a lot that could happen there. So I think people do dismiss it as, oh, it's definitely not your forever home because of the scale and everything around it. But that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of factors that, could surprise some people one day. But we're going to do the best we can to make the environment as good as we can in wherever we're located. So right now, that is our plans. We don't have anything beyond that.
We got a couple of comments in the chat regarding your guys' badge. It is unique. I think we might have even featured it in a badge raider video a month or so ago. Kind of explain the unique look that you guys have created.
Not having the name of the club is a choice, guys.
It is a choice. The league bought us on it. So
yeah, it certainly was a choice. Matt's comment earlier about we're building something for 20, 30, 40 years from now. And, to me, I think that when I look at just the landscape of badges or crest, we wanted something that was really unique, from the color to the style. And we also wanted to create a name that wasn't in professional soccer in the U.S. We could have been Union or United or those are all fine names. It's just we wanted to be something a little bit different. The choice of no name, I correlate to people, especially here in town and really throughout the world, probably know this. But when you see that blue star, it doesn't always have to say Dallas Cowboys. And while I understand that we're not the Dallas Cowboys, totally get it. It's our goal to grow the brand and associate it with Atletico Dallas through our marketing efforts, through our engagement in the community. So in 5 years, more people identify with it. In 10, more people identify with it. In 20, more people identify with it. And that was really the goal. And, I think that it's certainly a question I get quite often. We hear it's Harry Potter, it's Game of Thrones, and we get all that. But at the end of the day, whatever we would have put out, there would have been people knocking on it. It wouldn't have mattered.
Well, and I will say, just anecdotally, yesterday there's a really popular trail that connects from downtown. It goes about 5 miles north. It's a biking trail called Katy Trail, and there's hundreds and thousands of people on it every day. I'm walking on it last night, and I've got a shirt on just with the crest, and there's about 3 mid-20-year-old guys. They all look at me and yell, "Atletico Dallas." And it's unique. And I mean, we don't start playing for 2 years, 18 months really. But, we believe that at least in Dallas, we can make a footprint so people know the crest. It is unique.
And it'll be helpful, in starting in July this year, our youth club will don the brand and the name. So we'll have a long runway. We'll have 160 plus teams this year, hopefully more next year, that will play all across Dallas and the state and country, quite frankly. And, so we'll hopefully start building that steam where people can identify with it. But I totally get the criticism. Again, I go back to whatever we would have put out, there would have been people saying it sucked. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's fair. American soccer fans notorious for not liking anything.
Anything at
I've
all.
been living that as
Yeah,
as part
Sam
of
and
it.
I are both Chelsea and Dutch fans, so there's a little bit of that.
Yeah, growing
Alright.
up, we loved the Dutch, and you guys probably didn't see it. We put out a video in the Cotton Bowl. Matt and I went to a quarterfinal game in the '94 World Cup in the Cotton Bowl. It was the Netherlands versus Brazil, and it was a classic game. 0-0 at half. Brazil ended up clipping them at the end. But there was 5 goals in the second half, and Matt and I took our baby blues to the Cotton Bowl as 19-year-olds and got down to our seats, and we were in the middle of it seemed like 1,000 Brazilian fans
in the Dutch jersey.
But they had a great time, and that was really a special moment for us. So it's kind of full circle too, coming back to the Cotton Bowl for Matt and I, who have shared a number of different games there, soccer matches.
All right. Well, I'm certainly excited. I'm certainly it's a fascinating. I mean, I feel like we could talk to you guys for another hour. I'd love to pick your brain about the youth soccer element of this, because when you put yourself into an environment like imagine that North Texas area, people get a little prickly. So I'm sure there's stories there, but we won't take up more of your time. Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, Sam, Morton, Matt, Valentine, founders of Atletico Dallas. Thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kickaround. As you go, where can viewers find updates? Sounds like there's a lot of exciting things to come.
Yeah, you can check us out at atleticodallas.com on the net, or Atletico_Dallas on Instagram, and give us a follow. We put out our launch edition kind of commemorative kit yesterday. We only printed 1,000. We sold, I think, 250, almost 300 just yesterday. So they'll go fast, and give us a follow, and we'll hope to see you around town.
Yeah. When you guys put out the real jerseys, I'm going to be, we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be critiquing it. All right.
No doubt. We'll look forward to that, Jason.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Getting to know our district of Dallas, Texas. Things hotting up there. Lots of stuff going on in that district here in the United States. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us. If you are watching now, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button, do so now. Join the American soccer conversation here on Morning Kickaround. You want to step up your support of the show? Become a member. $3.99 a month is all it costs. You get priority commenting. Thank you to everyone for jumping into the comments during that segment. And you get priority access to videos and bonus content. Hey, Chris Sow, thank you for coming a member.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I saw some other people debating with becoming a new member as well. Ewan, take the plunge, my friend. Take the plunge. It's well worth it. And thank you to everyone who has already taken the plunge and joined our conversation. The Morning Kickaround Discord channel. Lots of great American soccer conversation threads there. So become a member today. We're going to sip our coffee, come right back with our final segment of Wednesday. We're going to dig into some soccer disruptors here on Morning Kickaround. This is the Soccer Disruptors here on Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Detroit City FC continue to do American soccer their own way over the course of 10 plus years, working their way up from an amateur league in the community to an NPSL team, and then now in USL Championship. And we spoke to a founder and CEO Sean Mann late last week discussing their applications for Division I and the progress on building a brand new stadium.
Yeah, we decided to clip up our conversation with Sean because I'm sure some people watched it. It was 20 minutes. It was excellent. I also recognize that, some people might have missed it, and that we don't we're asking questions. We're getting Sean's responses. We don't get to kind of dig into what he said in the middle of the interview. So after we were done, Rob and I are like, oh, did you catch what he said this? Did you catch when he said that? So what we wanted to do here was clip up this interview, give you a taste of what it was like so you can maybe go back and watch the whole thing if you missed it. But also just dive in here and maybe analyze some of the things I think we learned that we didn't necessarily know before. Now I have 3 clips, Rob. I will let you dealer's choice here. We can talk about promotion and relegation and how that impacts Detroit City, which is coming to the USL, apparently. We can talk about the Division I situation, because that's obviously part of this as well. Or I suppose we can talk about the expansion of the stadium plan, because originally it was going to be a little too small to meet the Division I professional league standards. So where do you want to start?
I want to start with the application process for D1, because I think that's just says a lot about the disruptive nature of this club in Detroit, that, like I said, NPSL, and they're pushing the envelope all the way up to Division I. When I mentioned the fact I wasn't sure if they'd, be able to take that next step, because they'd already taken so many steps already. And I was wrong. They are Detroit CWC they're planning on being Division I right out the gate.
Okay, so here we go. Here's the clip from Sean from last week's
Going
interview.
through the application process at the moment. I'm sure once they have all the applications in, they'll have a better idea of how many teams are coming in and looking to do it. So I'm not in a position to speculate how that's looking at the moment. I'm just going through all the paperwork they gave us, and I'll be fair. I punted a lot of it to staff, but but it's a lot, and they're obviously holding us to a higher standard to move up. So it's a great point for us as we grow as an organization. We're challenging ourselves already to be something that's going to thrive in this new venue, and the D1 requirements is just it just gives us another star to point to as we reorient the organization. So but yeah, I mean, it seems like there's enough interest. I was pleasantly surprised. I was taken back by, as soon as the D1 conversation became real and the league said they're doing it, ownership groups who I thought were more static, all of a sudden took it up a notch. And you're hearing that around, the table of plans and investment, and it's fun. It's exciting. Everyone's challenging each other, and you just can't take anything for granted. And I think that's a good spot to be.
All right, so there was his response about the D1 application. I thought that was fascinating. Like you said, there was that thing about there's paperwork, and it's not just hey, we'd like to be D1. Can you put us on the list? It's you have to check off all these things, and you have to file. I imagine it's financial. It's obviously about the stadium stuff. It's getting everything in line so they can go to U.S. Soccer and say, hey, we've got everything done. You can't even, you can maybe say we need a waiver or two. We might ask for some waivers, but you can't act like we didn't do our due diligence. We're not faking this. This is a real effort. And the other part that caught my attention, obviously, Rob, was that part at the end when he said he was taken aback by the number of ownership groups who were interested in being D1, ownership groups that he thought might not be the most ambitious. I mean, I don't know what that says about the USL as it previously was operating, but it certainly says that there's potential for growth here.
I think that speaks to the higher or the bigger notion that if you're in a D2 league without any possibility to move up, what are you doing? I mean, the president of USL, he kind of intimated the games are somewhat, did he say it's pointless? I'm not sure. What are we playing for if we're not playing to move up? And so maybe there are some teams out there. It sounds like there were some teams out there that were kind of going through the motions, we're doing our thing at this level and just truck it along. But the fact that there was a carrot or a guiding star, as he said, got some teams that were static, in motion once again, kind of revitalized maybe some ambitions for some people that kind of were going through the motions.
Right. Yeah. And look, sometimes you need to shake things up in order to get people moving in the right direction. And, maybe they do see this as, okay, we are limited here about what we can bring in. I don't want to put this down to avarice or something, just about greed, but it is, it is a thing that maybe some clubs were just kind of comfortable. And this has always been the argument about pro rel, right? Obviously you need to do something to avoid relegation. So you get your ass in gear, that kind of thing. But it could simply be that extra thing. Well, we have something to aspire to here. Now you've given us a target. Now, when it comes to professional league standards, again, it's a 15,000 seat minimum to meet the first division level. There was a stadium plan that they've been working on for a year and a half. And we talked to Sean about what it would take to get to that level.
The original design, when we started getting going, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, was operating off a 13.5 capacity. So not that different than Lynn Family, Louisville Stadium. And so, now it's in a matter of squeezing in 1,500 more people into the stadium. Actually, functionally, the bigger headache with that is meeting our parking minimums. So it's meant us having to acquire an extra acre of land that we didn't plan on to being able to accommodate that many more cars. But the stadium was always conceptualized as something that could expand and adjust to demand for the game. So adding 1,500 seats, was not. It's not been the biggest problem we're dealing with.
All right, so that one's interesting because this is sort of like the hidden problems. Like as soccer fans that are not involved in the process of designing a stadium, Rob, we're like, oh, you were planning on 12,000 seats and you've got to add 3,000 seats. That's crazy. You got to put extra stands and you're going to close an end and add costs to the stadium. But Sean's like, actually, our problem is parking. Like because lots of cities in our country require there to be a certain number of spaces for the size of a building, for the capacity of a building. It doesn't matter, soccer stadium or otherwise. These laws are in place. I think some of them are ridiculous and we should get rid of them. But in a car-driven country, this is the way we operate. And so in order to meet that, and I'm sure there's lots of other things, right? If you add 1,500 seats, how many more bathrooms do you have to put in the stadium, Rob? Right?
A couple more, at least.
How much more is the water capacity of the building? I mean, how much more electricity are you drawing to run this? I mean, those things are not stuff we think about, but are obviously part of the process for a club like Detroit City.
Yeah, that would be the lamest reason for this not to happen, was because they couldn't find enough parking spots. Like, find some Uber, guys. Come on.
I mean, he said that there happened to be an acre alongside the site that they did not already control that they bought in order to meet the parking requirements. What if you're a team that's like, we're going to build a stadium so we can meet the standard and we just want to have a stadium because that's what professional sports teams are supposed to do. Here's a perfect plot of land. And then the city comes and goes, well, actually, you need 300 more parking spots. And you're like, oh, damn. Where do we put those? We're boxed in here, right? The land, luckily, this is kind of a weird way to frame it. Luckily for Detroit City, Detroit is a city that has some space, right? They got some abandoned hospitals available to buy and tear down. Some cities do not have this land, Rob. So, and this is again part of why a lot of teams in a previous era of American soccer, those MLS teams, decided to build outside it's why FC Dallas placed 36 miles from downtown Dallas, because it was easier to build, because they knew they were going to have a chance to put in tons of parking. It wasn't as heavy a lift as building in a city the way that Detroit City is trying to do it. I'm
curious if that's going to plan out for our friends at Atletico Dallas, if that's going to play into any part there. But one of the notes, I don't know if this is in our next clip, but I thought that it was interesting that Sean also said that this is going to be the most locally focused stadium, and they're going to do everything in their part to ingratiate themselves locally, and that most of the owners live within a couple blocks of the stadium plan. So they are moving the stadium actually closer into their own neighborhoods, which is pretty unique. Yeah, I did not get that clip about what this would mean for the fan base that has been going to Hamtramck for a couple of years. And then obviously, as he said, this is actually better located for the ownership, but how do you get your fan base to sort of adjust? He seems to think that this is actually going to be great for them because it's in an area that should benefit a lot of fans of Detroit City. But I do have one more clip. I want to play this. This is about Pro Rel and how it's impacting Detroit City. And I asked Sean specifically about what happens when you go down.
So we were, I think, some of the most active owners in the room or outside the room, among the other owners pushing for the Pro Rel. I think we were pretty adamant about it. We've been big boosters for it. Understand and appreciate that there's people in the USL ownership group who have stakes in teams in England and Europe who live and breathe Pro Rel already. I think our setup is unique in that one week we just don't generate revenue off broadcast right now. That model it puts the onus on us to sell the ads and and so really butts and seats is going to drive everything for us. And Pro Rel, I think, there's no silver bullets for American soccer, but for us, it's great stories, it's great narrative, and that's something that's on us then to spin to keep people engaged and put those butts in the seats and create a more compelling product. And so, us dropping down to League One and playing Madison, is that different than us being in Championship and playing Lexington? I'll challenge the marketing team to come up with a good story and narrative to compel people to show up to that game, whatever division we're in.
All right, without making this about other teams or other ownership groups, and I would kind of be building a straw man if we're like, well, other ownership groups aren't as focused positively on pro. Let's just identify what Sean and Detroit City and his co-owners and everybody there seems to be getting right about this possibility, that you adapt to your situation, that you tell the stories that are available to you, and there is no excuse. You go down a level because you got relegated. Well, that stinks. We had a terrible year. We're all disappointed, but hey, we're going to win our way back up. And now we do get to start a new rivalry with Madison or whoever. Like you find ways, and there's no guarantee of success there, but I think you have to be sort of a positive mindset with this idea of going down, because it could happen to anybody. And I still have questions about how you institute pro rel if you are going to limit teams with spending. Like pro rel and parity is that's a weird marriage, Rob, because one bad penalty call against you could mean going down. And I know that's true that's true in the Premier League and the Championship. I guess there is something to that. But again, if a team's like, well, we don't want to go down, let's go buy a midfielder. You can't really do that in American soccer usually. So that's a thing.
There isn't really spending limits on USL teams as is there?
I don't believe they are unrestricted in their spending, but we probably should do a review of their roster rules and salary cap rules because, again, if they're just, every team in the country has to follow rules about foreign players and green cards and things like that. That's not about money being spent. Obviously, we're talking about teams that don't have a ton of money, generally speaking, to throw at salaries. And I do think that, when you talk about first division, as has been said in the chat, you're talking about spending on a higher quality of player, right? In order to stay up, right? And there will be some ownership groups who will be willing to spend out ahead of returns in order to maybe win the league or to stay up for sure. And so I think that all this stuff is wrapped up in one big question about money without exactly knowing how parity will affect it. And again, if you know that you're going to be limited in your spending and you know that you might come in behind some teams in terms of pure salary, first of all, can you find ways to get players good enough and a coach smart enough to keep you up? And then also, if you do go down, how bad of a thing is that for you? How do you make that not a positive, certainly, but make it impact you as little as possible?
I'm curious if this is too much of an overstatement. Detroit City FC, most flexible and malleable team in North America?
I mean, their history speaks for itself, obviously, going from Cats Tech and short season soccer to Hamtramck to raising money from their fans to help rehabilitate that high school football stadium, creating the culture around the team. Obviously, a lot of that was organic with the supporters and the way that they kind of rallied around Detroit City, going pro and not necessarily losing their character, which I think we talked about and worried about, a lot of us. Detroit City goes pro. What does that mean? Will their fans stick with them? Now here we go with another evolution of the team, and I think they're doing it as right as they can. It has been pointed out, and I think we had somebody in the chat on Friday when we talked to Sean that said something like, there is somebody with the money, that they're not really in control anymore. Look, everything says that they still have the same character as when they were a short season team started by 5 guys from Detroit. We don't know exactly how the money works behind the scenes, but I have no reason to think that it's a bad impact on the team right now.
Yeah, they'd be stuck in Nisa, or they'd be dissolved or having to jump somewhere else. I mean, when I first talked to Sean about 8 years ago, they were talking about they were taking all their inspiration from Chattanooga, and Chattanooga wasn't able to make the jump like Detroit City FC were. So you never know, kind of like where fortunes may take you with timing and actually geo restrictions. You're talking about salary and spending and how that could get funky with promotion relegation. So could the territorial rights, that could get funky as well there. Yeah. But I think our time has kind of run out here on our episode of Morning Kickaround. Great conversations here. I feel like we could go for a couple hours here on the Detroit City FC new stadium and promotion relegation. Our conversation with the guys from Atletico Dallas, lots of stuff to dig into there. And then obviously at the top of the show, talking about the big competitions and the possibilities of Americans moving to different European clubs. So thank you everyone for joining in today. Thank you to our new members. Thank you for those who are on the edge of becoming new members. And then Crispy Do, yes, those who are gifted memberships at the beginning of the month, be sure to re-up those and remain MK Ultras.
I want to highlight Ewan, who says he's going to become a member. So shout out to Ewan. You have to see the new renderings for Miami FC's new stadium, the USL. It's quite interesting. Maybe we'll put a pin in that and come back to it. Wasn't aware that the Miami, this is why we need you guys. Miami's got new renderings. We're renderings junkies. This is what we do. So we'll take a look at that at some point in the near future.
I think someone threw out something about a Dallas Fort Worth came out with some stuff too. So I don't know if there's something going on there, but we'll dig into more team renderings and announcements and all that. So if you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. If you're not a member, become a member. If you like your shows as a podcast, you can search for us as a podcast. So Jason and I will return on Friday. And until then, everybody, enjoy your soccer.